Welcome to the second episode of the USATF Fantasy Show. My name is James Hill, and I'm joined by Jordan Testerman and Dr. Robert Chapman. Today we're going to be breaking down our picks and analysis for the 2024 USATF Los Angeles Grand Prix.
Before we get into our predictions for this week, head on over to usatf.org/pick'em to enter this week's contest. It's $2,500 prize pool for this meet, so all you have to do is answer the 10 questions listed on the prompt, and if you get the most correct out of everyone, you'll win your share of $2,500. Also, tune in to NBC on Saturday from 3 to 4:30 Eastern to watch the meet live.
Well, Jordan, as much as it pains me to say, you earned bragging rights from Bermuda. I guess everybody gets lucky every once in a while. Tell me about what you did right or wrong from the Bermuda Grand Prix.
Yeah, I think a lot went right for me at Bermuda. I got 8 out of 10 right. I think the only things that I got wrong were the triple jump, the women's long jump, round 2. I put round 1, it ended up being round 2. So that was kind of a, shot in the dark there, but missed that one. And then the women's 100 did not go under 11 seconds. So I was kind of surprised to see that, especially with the plus 2.2 meter per second tailwind. But everything else hit that right on the dot. Every yes or no question hit no. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I know that we were kind of fading everything with the wind conditions, so that all turned out to be true.
And on my end, I'm an optimistic guy, so I picked yes for those yes or no questions. I thought everything was going to go fast, especially with that tailwind. I misjudged it. I know we talked about during the episode that everything was going to be dependent on the wind. I think that was still true. It's hard to jump in the wind. It's hard to run in the wind. It was a windy race. I went with my heart instead of my head, and I wanted everybody to go fast. Can't say I'm going to change my mind on this one, but we have some interesting things to talk through. So let's jump right into the LA Grand Prix. We have some amazing matchups this week. Jordan, what's the matchup you're looking forward to the most?
I think everyone should be looking forward to the women's 200 this weekend. We got a stacked field. Not just, one head-to-head we're looking at. I mean, from top to bottom, this field looks incredible. We got Gabby Thomas, who's started off the year sizzling hot, started off at Texas Relays running 22:08. She just ran a 50.3 in the 400, looked great at World Relays as well. So she's going up against Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone, who just ran 22:38 wind-aided a couple weeks ago. Obviously, she's back. She's in shape. She's looking great. Abby Steiner, who we just saw at Bermuda, she's going to be coming back. Our defending LA Grand Prix champion, Jenna Prandini's in this race.
Absolutely. And for me, I mean, you look at the men's 400, you've got Michael Norman versus Karani James. Huge matchup there. You also have Vernon Norwood, Bryce Deadman in that race. Huge stacked field there. I'm really looking forward to just seeing how they open up this year and get that done.
Yeah, agreed. Dr. Chapman.
I agree with the women's 200. I think it's absolutely stacked, but I'm going to go to my bias and stick with the throwers here for a minute. And I'm looking forward to the men's shot put. And even though Ryan Krauser is a late scratch in the event, you've got Joe Kovacs, you've got Walsh from New Zealand, and you've got Peyton Otterdahl, who's thrown over 22 meters this year, as well as Roger Steen, Joshua Watunde, who's got a medal from the World Championships in 2022. I'm all about the throws this year, and the men's shot put is, I still think, going to be one of the highlight events of this meet.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the throws as well.
Absolutely. It's a very, very competitive field in the men's shot.
Yeah. It's kind of a golden age in the American throws in general, men's and women's side. We got a lot of medal opportunities there for Paris, so definitely looking forward to seeing how our athletes compete.
So with that, let's get into the Fantasy Pick'em game for the LA Grand Prix. In this segment, we'll read through each question and give our predictions based off of our research and data. Question 1. In which round will the furthest jump occur in the women's triple jump at the 2024 USATF Los Angeles Grand Prix? Your answer choices are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'll let Jordan lead off with this one.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a broken record from last week, but all my same reasonings apply. The jumpers are going to be fresh coming into round 1. They're not going to be passing. They're going to be taking their first attempts. All of them are going to need to put up a mark to try to get into the 6th round to get those last 3 attempts. So I'm going to go round 1. I will say, as someone that grew up in Southern California, wind patterns that I noticed while I was jumping was that as it gets later into the afternoon, the wind does tend to pick up a little bit. I don't know if that rings true in LA specifically, but I think maybe if the wind does pick up a little bit towards the later rounds, we could see some pretty far jumps in rounds 5 or 6 as well. So I'm still going to go with round 1 for the record, but just wanted to throw that little tidbit in there.
Dr. Chapman, what do you think?
So when I thought about this one, I looked at the schedule, and the women's triple jump actually is really early in the program. You know, it starts before 12 noon. So you've got a lot of so you got a lot of athletes who are going to have to get up early and get ready to go. And at least from my experience, I think with those early morning events, like when you think of prelims at the Olympic Games and World Championships, a lot of times it takes a jump or two under your belt to get going. So I definitely agree with what Jordan said, that a lot of times you're fresh on that first jump, but I think just finding the board, getting the kinks out in the morning hours, stuff like that. I'm going to wait. I'm going to go with round 4. I think you got to get through those first 3 jumps of the prelim. You get a little break as they, figure out if they're going to reorder or not. Sometimes they do. The field's small enough, they'll probably just go straight through. But still, I'm gonna say give them 3 jumps under their belt. I'm going to take a flyer, a stab here, and go with round 4.
So I'm going to go with round 5 for this one. With what Dr. Chapman was saying, you're going to need a mark to get into that final jump. Those final 3 jumpers will need a mark in the top 3 to get that final jump. I really think you see a lot of people go for it on that 5th round jump, and that's where you're going to see your furthest mark this week, so put me down for round 5. Question number 2. Who will win the women's 100-meter hurdles at the 2024 USATF Los Angeles Grand Prix? Answer choices are Tania Marshall, Nia Ali, Jasmine Camacho Quinn, or any other athlete. Dr. Chapman, I'll let you lead this one off.
Let me start first by saying, of course, I'm always in my role going to hope that an American athlete wins. That's default. However, for the purpose of this contest today, I'm going to go with a Puerto Rican athlete. I'm going to go with Camacho Quinn. And the reason I'm going to say that is she had a very good race in China where she ran well running into a slight headwind in China. That's a really tough trip. And if you can put up a good mark in China running into a headwind, I think coming back to North America in the situation that we're going to have in LA, I just feel like she's probably the most fit right now. And I think she's going to end up winning it.
I agree with Dr. Chapman that I also believe that Camacho Quinn is going to win, but I think my reasoning differs a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily say that Camacho Quinn is in better condition right now, as I think Tania Marshall is running better time-wise. Now, whether that's, benefiting from running domestically, I'm not sure. But a note on Tania Marshall, she did just get beat in Doha on Friday. Didn't have her best race of the season, and then she's going to have to come back a week later and run in a completely different time zone. The race in China that Dr. Chapman was referring to was a couple weeks ago. So I think Camacho Quinn is going to come into this race just a little bit more prepared to run fast. And then with Nia Ali, I think she's just raced a little bit less than the other 2. So I think the safe pick here is to go with Camacho Quinn. But I could really see it going multiple different ways here.
Yeah, I also agree with these 2 that Camacho Quinn is the best bet for this race. I think she's in the best shape right now. I think she's racing the best. I can also see this going with any other athlete. We have a lot of talented people in the 100-meter hurdles. We have Gabby Cunningham. We have Messiah Russell. We have, Christina Clemens. You have a lot of talented athletes in this field that I could see any one of them winning this. However, just based off of recent results, I'm going to go with Camacho Quinn to win this race.
Any other athlete could hit.
Yeah.
If you want to take a flyer there.
What will the official winning time be in the men's 400-meter hurdles be at the 2024 Los Angeles Grand Prix? Your answer choices are 46.85 or faster, 46.86 to 47.35, 47.36 to 47.85, or 47.86 or slower?
All right. I had a little fun writing this one, but yeah, this question was definitely inspired by Alison Dos Santos's performance in Doha. I mean, 46.86 season opener in the 400 hurdles. If you don't know, he's the 2022 world champion in the event from Brazil, and that's just absolutely ridiculous. But we do have one athlete in this race that I think could threaten a time like that this early, and that is Rai Benjamin. Rai Benjamin is making his season opener at 400-meter hurdles here at LA, and yeah, I think he could put down a pretty nasty time. Now, whether it's going to be 46.85, I don't know. That's pretty fast. I mean, if we're talking, 4 years ago, the world record was 46.7. So now these guys are opening their season 46.8. Kind of crazy. But Rai is a competitor. He's going to respond. He's seen the time already that Dos Santos put down. I think he's going to want to show, like, hey, like, I'm here. I'm a threat to win the whole thing later in the year in Paris. So, going back to his last 400-meter hurdles race at Prix at the Diamond League final last year, where he ran 46.4, I mean, if he runs every race from here on out like that, I honestly don't see anyone beating him, and that's including Warholm. I know that's a bold statement to make, but that's how highly I think of Rai. I really think he's going to run well. But to answer your question, I think he's going to run somewhere between 46.86 and 47.35.
Well, I was at Mount Sac last month where I saw Rai run probably the easiest, most comfortable 44-point open flat 400 that I've maybe ever seen. It was remarkable for a race in April to see somebody run that fast, so easy. He looked like he was literally jogging the last 100 meters and shut it down right before the line. So he's clearly fit. Now the question is, how much, as Jordan said, does Dos Santos' performance inspire him, or does it make him tighten up a little bit and maybe overrun and push to try to show, hey, I'm, game on, sort of thing. I just think if you go back and you look at all of last year in your windows that you made, Jordan, so there were two athletes all of last year that ran faster than 46.85. There were two that ran in that next window of 46.86 to 47.35. And then there were five that ran in that next window, 47.36 to 47.85. So I'm just going to play the math, say it's still May. It's still a little early. I think Rai's probably still training heavy. And I'm going to go with that third window of 47.36 to 47.85.
I'm going to have to side with Jordan on this one. I'm going to say 46.86 to 47.35. I do think, Rai is an absolute competitor. He saw what Dos Santos put down. He's obviously very fit. And I think with him running in Los Angeles, even though it's a season opener, I see that being in that 46.86 to 47.35 range. Question number 4. Who will win the women's 200 meters at the 2024 USATF Los Angeles Grand Prix? Your answer choices are Gabby Thomas, Sydney McLaughlin-Lavroni, Abby Steiner, Jenna Prandini, Salwa Ed Nassar, or any other athlete. Dr. Chapman, you want to lead us off?
Not really, because this is probably the hardest one to try to answer. I could see any of those questions or any of those answers be the winner. You look at Prandini, she came out of the woodwork last year to win it. Gabby is Gabby, who's running really well. She looked great at World Relays. I wouldn't put anything past Sid, and she had that nice 200 the week before. And then Steiner won in Bermuda. So this is going to be a tough one. One of the interesting things about Gabby Thomas is she's entered in the 100. So the question is she going to double 100 and 200? There's only 20 minutes between. But we saw in the 4x1 and the 4x4, she also had in Bermuda just a little bit of time, 20 minutes or so in between those events, and she did just fine. So I just think based on the fitness that we saw in Bermuda, I'm going to go with Gabby. Now, Gabby last year, if I remember right, did not look particularly well in LA, but then she immediately went over to Rome. I remember we worked a little bit, Tyler Noble, who's our senior manager of sports science and data analytics, Did an analysis of her 200 in LA, gave it to her coach Tanja Buford-Bailey. They did some nice tweaks based on that, and she ran really well. I think it was in Rome the very next week. So I think a lot of it just depends. Did she come back from World Relays and hit it hard? I know that's a long, winding answer to end up with Gabby Thomas.
Do you think maybe, like you hinted at, it could be part of her training to double back-to-back 20-minute time frame? Do you see that being part of the strategy from Tanja maybe, or?
It very well could be. I know, Gabby also has sights on trying to potentially make 4 events at the Olympic Games, between 100, 200, and the 2 relays. And so I think just showing strength and showing that versatility, is at least going to give her confidence to do it. Give our relay coaches confidence to select her and put her in the 4x4 as they did at World Relays. So I think there's good motivation for her.
That, and honestly, that was my main concern too, when trying to come up with my answer for this question, was whether or not Gabby was actually going to run, because the 100 is before the 200 on the program. So I did write down Gabby Thomas. That is my official pick. If she toes the line, I think that Gabby Thomas is going to win this race. It's going to be very close. By no means is this a lock. So if she doesn't show up and run, if she just runs the 100, I'm going to go with Sid. I think 22.3 with the tailwind, pretty impressive. Obviously, she's shown fitness as well. She ran 12:71 in the 100 hurdles. So I have no doubt that Sid's going to show up and put on a good race too. So I got Gabby 1 and Sid as my alternate.
Yeah, I think for all the reasons that you guys just explained, I'm going to go with Sid in this one. The reason being, it's hard to double that quickly back-to-back like that. I do think that even if Gabby does run the 100 first and then runs the 2, it's going to be a little bit harder to get that in that quickly. And I think with this competitive of a field, not to mention the chance of scratching, but I think Sydney is in great shape right now. I'm going to go ahead and go with Sydney for the 200. Question number 5. Who will win the women's 400 meters at the 2024 USATF Los Angeles Grand Prix? I'm going to go ahead and take this one first.
What are the answer choices for this one?
Your answer choices are Alexis Holmes, Athing Mo, Marilady Paulino, Mary Mora, or any other athlete. I'm going to go ahead and go with Athing Mo. The girl is just unstoppable, it seems like. I know she was a little bit banged up last year, and didn't race as often as she could have. But I think in the 400, she's been close to unbeatable. And I know you've got some very talented people in this race. Paulino is always a threat and always looks very good. Alexis Holmes has, shown fitness over and over this year on those relays. I just think Athing has something inside of her that will win this race, and it's hard to stop her.
If this was 3 years ago, I would probably agree with you. But in 2024, I think that Paulino has established herself as the queen of the 400. Whether or not Nasser or Miller-Weibo is going to step up later in the year and take that crown back is yet to be seen. But for the purposes of this race, I really think this one's not going to be as close as people think. I think Paulino is probably going to take this one. I think the real question is that, well, there are some question marks surrounding Athing, right? Is this her speed work, or has she put in the work to, get back to that, elite level in the 400? Because, as you know, she went up to 1500 in the recent years. So, but she's shown in Tokyo that she has, 48 point speed in the 4x4. So, honestly, it's just a matter of, what is Athing going to look like when she comes out. But if you want a safe bet, or a safer bet, I should say, I think Paulino is probably your safest bet here.
I think you guys might be discounting Alexis Holmes a little bit, and I think you might also be discounting Mora from Kenya a little bit. So Mora looked great winning the Doha 800. She had very nice wheels coming home. I have no doubt she has enough leg speed to be able to keep up over 400 meters. I think it's just a long trip to come from Doha to Los Angeles with this tight of a turnaround and rebound. That's the only thing that has me going against Mora. Paulino, remind me, she won the race last year, right? Here in LA? Was it her?
Yes, I believe so.
And she looked absolutely fantastic. And Holmes ran well in Jamaica last week. She trains at University of Arkansas with Boogie Johnson and Chris Johnson. And if you saw the results from SEC, the Arkansas women did really well in the 400 meters. I think they had 3 women under 50 seconds in the 400 meters. So I think there's no doubt that Alexis is fit right now. I think it all comes down to how fit is Paulino right now. If she's fit, I think she's the class of the field, and so I'll go with her.
Yeah, she did open up in China in that Diamond League and did win. Time wasn't super impressive, but like Chapman alluded to earlier on in one of the earlier questions, if you can travel all the way to China and perform well, coming back, to Pacific time, it should translate pretty well. So, but I do agree. Murad did look really, really good in Doha. She could come out and run well. Alexis Holmes, definitely not counting her out. I just think Paulino is gonna win this one, but it's anyone's race.
How many men will throw 22 meters or further, 72 feet 2 inches, in the men's shot put at the 2024 USATF Los Angeles Grand Prix? Answer choices are 3 or more or 2 or fewer. Jordan, what do you think?
Yeah, Dr. Chapman gave a pretty good rundown of who's in this field. It's going to be a great competition even without Ryan Krauser in it. Despite that, I do think I'm going to go with 2 or fewer on this one. And my reasoning is because, this is Joe Kovac's season opener. I think Joe Kovacs is definitely capable of throwing over 22 meters his first competition out, but it's just always hard to predict when, you haven't seen how someone looks this season. So just kind of playing it safe there. Tom Walsh has thrown over 22 meters a couple times this year. He's usually pretty consistent. So I think, given good weather conditions, I think we can count on him to throw pretty well. And Otterdahl has also thrown over 22 meters a couple times this year too. So he's been looking really good. But outside of those two, I don't really know who else we can count on to really get over that 22-meter barrier consistently. So I'm just going to go with 2 or fewer. That's just my gut instinct here.
You could not be more wrong. It's going to be 3 or more. It's easily going to be 3. When you have Walsh, when you have Joe Kovacs, and when you have Patton Otterdahl throwing the way Peyton is throwing this year, those 3 are going to do it. Somebody else may do it as well, but it's 3 or more. We're done. Move on. That one's an easy. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think Jordan's absolutely wrong on this.
Okay, yeah.
I mean,
well, let's see. Let's see what you were going to say before.
Joe Kovacs, You've got Peyton Otterdahl, you've got Tom Walsh, Roger Steen, Trip Perry.
I can't wait until I'm right on this
all
one.
All of those people, I think 3 of them get it done.
Okay.
And
hey, you know what? I hope I'm wrong, because that means that men's shot put is alive and well outside of Ryan Krauser. But
listen, all I have to say is when you're wrong, we'll roll the tape next week and
sure.
we'll all laugh at you.
And
so
you know what?
fun.
I'll still get more right than you guys, even if I get that question wrong.
Yeah,
so.
I don't think that's going to happen, but
okay.
Man can dream, right?
The line's been drawn in the sand. All right. There are sides. There's Team Jordan and there's everyone else. I see.
Wow.
Wow. All right, let's go.
See,
Next
we'll
question.
See how
next
America
question.
votes.
We'll see.
Question 7. Before we get into the next question, if you like what we're wearing today, you can pick up some of your own at usatf.org/store. It's Nike official Team USATF merchandise. And you can support your favorite athletes on their way to Paris. Will Michael Norman and Karani James both finish in the top 2 in the men's 400 at the 2024 Los Angeles Grand Prix? I'll start this one off. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say between Vernon Norwood and Bryce Deadman, I think one of them sneak in there, that top two. I think if you're looking just off paper, I think Michael Norman and Karani James should finish 1 and 2. I just think that the other two are so strong, and I think that they have that pedigree, that capability of doing so, that the odds are in my favor to just say no, that one of them is going to finish in that top two.
You could not be more wrong. Do we have a sound effect for this yet? Lock of the meet. Yes. Here's why. All right. Michael Norman is back. All right. I'm a little biased here. Don't get me wrong. I ran track with this kid from 5th grade all the way, through senior year of high school. So I know how he trains. I know that when he drops a 44.2 2 weeks ago at Oxy, he's back. He's going to win this race. All right, but that's not what the question's asking. We need him and Karani to get top 2. Karani showed his fitness at Bermuda. Everyone else in this race really hasn't shown their fitness. You mentioned, Vernon and Bryce. Vernon ran 45 point in Doha. I think Karani's going to run sub 45 in this race. And then Bryce, didn't look his best at World Relays. So everyone else definitely has a chance to sneak in there in the top 2. But I honestly think that Michael Norman and Karani James are going to run away with this one. But that's just me. Maybe I'm blinded by my bias.
Yeah,
Time will
right.
tell.
You're right. It's just you. So,
Okay.
Dr. Chapman.
So I think this might be, even for a binary, yes, no question, I think this might be the hardest question on the whole board. I mean, in some ways, the winning round, the women's triple jump, you could say is the hardest question because there's 6 options and it's, a little hard to make a data-driven decision. If you're looking at Norman and James, clearly they are the class of the field. They are two, by far and away, the best. But if you look at just all the other combinations of who could come up there and sneak in and knock off one of these guys, you can make an argument for Vernon. You can make an argument for Bryce Deadman. You can make an argument for almost anybody else in the field to come up and get second. So I truly think this is probably a coin flip sort of question right here between them. A lot of times our eyes lie to us a little bit. We go off what's called recency bias. And the recency bias is you watched Karani James do what he did in Bermuda. You watched Michael Norman do what he did at the Oxy meet. And you think, okay, based on recent form, they're right there. Vernon didn't look that great. And Vernon's a great competitor. Didn't look that great in his last meet. You could say the same things for the other guys. So I'm going to lean towards yes, that they are going to go on too.
Question number 8. Will the winning time in the women's 100-meter A race at the 2024 USATF Los Angeles Grand Prix be faster than or equal to 11 seconds? Answer choices are yes or no.
Yeah. Yes, it should be. But who's going to step up and do it? That's the real question. If Gabby is in this race, I think that she is capable of running low 10.9 right now. Tamari Davis, also very capable of dipping under 11. But this is the same question from Bermuda where, I thought Tamari had that on lock with the tailwind and everything, and she got that plus 2.2 meters per second, still ran 11.03. It is early, so, wouldn't look too far into that time, analysis-wise, but just for the sake of answering the question, this one's going to be pretty close. I'm going to go with yes because I think out of this whole field, it's definitely a stronger field than what was in Bermuda. So I do think somebody's going to dip under. It's just a question of who's going to step up, but it doesn't really matter who it is. It just needs to be one person.
I agree with you, Jordan. I think the optimist in me is going to go with yes. I think there's too many talented women in this field for it to go no. I mean, you've got Melissa Jefferson, you've got Talou, you've got T.T. Terry, you've got Gabby Thomas. I think one of them find a way to go under 11 seconds. Again, don't know who, but I do think that this is a fast race and that it goes under that 11 seconds.
Yeah, not to mention Talou from Ivory Coast is in this race, and I believe she still trains with John Smith, who's based in L.A. So, this is a home meet for her too. yeah, she could easily dip under 11. I mean, she's been at every major global final for the last decade and has run under 11 seconds countless times.
So I'm going to go against you guys. I'm going to say no. And my rationale for saying no is it's still May. So it still is a little bit early, even though we've seen people run certainly sub 11 in April and May. I'm going to say no, it's a little too early. And the prevailing wind tends to be a headwind at this track. And usually, you mentioned, Jordan, as you get a little bit later in the day, the wind kind of picks up a little bit. And so I don't think we're going to see Bermuda-like winds, but I definitely don't think we're going to see a tail. I think if we do see any wind, I think it's going to be a headwind. My understanding is they're not going to flip the track. They'll go into the headwind. And if that's the case, I'm going to say no.
Okay, that's good insight, because I know that they did flip the track last year, if I'm not mistaken. So if they're not flipping the track this year, then...
So I don't know that.
Okay.
I don't know. Did they flip the track last year for the 100?
They did, yeah. They ran, not backwards, but
believe
they ran the
flipped the
opposite
track.
direction.
Yes.
So
They ran the opposite direction. Interesting. Yeah. So I didn't
Yeah.
remember that from last year. So, still, I'll still stick with no. I'm still going to stick with
just
no.
to be different.
Let's see.
I'd
love to see. I certainly would hope that in an Olympic year we could see some women under 11. But just to kind of stick it to you guys, I'll go against no and lock up an extra.
Hey, that's
point
okay.
in my column.
It is still pretty early in the season, but we're getting closer to U.S. Olympic trials, so can't wait forever to run fast. So I think now would be the time to start ramping it up and start putting together a couple good performances before Eugene. So
question number 9: will an American win the men's 100 meters at the 2024 USATF Los Angeles Grand Prix? Yes or no?
So I think it comes down to, do you think Leslie Tebogo is going to be as good as any American? Akeem Blake's in the race, is a runner from Ghana in the race, but I don't think they're quite at the level that Tebogo's at. So that's basically what you're asking, right? Is Tebogo as good as Carnes, King, who have all run really well? I think it's a yes, an American's going to win.
Yeah, this one's going to be pretty close. Chapman makes some really good points. I wrote no, and that's because I think Tebogo is going to win, but by no means do I think he's going to run away with it. I'm not 100% confident that he is going to win. And as a little bit of insurance, Akeem Blake is in this race, and he did win here last year, and he ran 9:89. He hasn't looked as good this year, but if we're looking at trends, that's definitely something to look at as well. So I'm leaning no on this one, as much as that pains me. I'd love to see an American take down Tebogo, but as of right now, that's just kind of my inkling.
I wrote no as well. I do think Tebogo wins this race. And yes, it is painful to say that. And our last question: how many women will run faster than or equal to 2 minutes in the women's 800 meters at the 2024 USATF Los Angeles Grand Prix? Answer choices: 4 or more, or 3 or fewer.
I want to say 4 or more, and I know that's pretty optimistic because I don't know, like, the 800 is a middle distance race, so we're gonna have a pace setter. Is the pace setter gonna be as bad as the one in Bermuda, where it pretty much threw out the door that everyone was gonna go under 205 like right off the bat? So the pace setter has a lot to do with it, but this is definitely a more seasoned field than the one that we saw in Bermuda. We have Ajay Wilson and Raven Rogers in this race, who are actually two of the athletes that haven't gone under 2 minutes already this season that are definitely capable of doing it. Allie Wilson ran 2 flat indoors in Albuquerque. She's going to be in this race. And then you got 4 other non-Americans in this race that have already run sub 2. So I think given all of that, I'm going to say that at least four of them are going to go under 2 minutes. So I'm going to basically saying that it's going to be a fast race, but maybe that's a little too optimistic. I'm not sure.
I'm going to go with 3 or less. I think all these women certainly have the capability of going sub 2 minutes. I just think if you look at the numbers with 10 of them there, I just think it might end up being a little bit more of a tactical type event, even though there might be a pace setter in this race. It's good to see Ajay Wilson back. She had a rough end to last year. I'm most curious to watch and see what she's going to do. If it's the Ajay of old, then it might tweak it where we end up with 4 or more. But It'll be interesting to see what she can do, but I still think it's going to end up being 3 or less. Again, not because they're capable. I just think the race is just going to pan out that way.
Yeah, it really does just depend on, the race flow and everything. And, Ajay did win this race last year. She started off the season on a pretty good hot streak, too. It was just towards the end of the season where, things kind of fell off a little bit for her. So I think, she comes back this year with a little chip on her shoulder, something to prove. Then yeah, I mean, she's right there in the mix, and she could push the pace a little bit, and yeah. But I think, given the talent of this field, I think that 4 or more is more than feasible. But that's just.
I agree with you, Jordan. I think 4 or more is what I have here. The quality of the field is what did it for me. It just takes one person to take it out, and everyone else has to follow, and everyone's capable of doing that. And I think that this pace gets pushed. People want to see, they want to win this race. It's a high quality field. And I think we have definitely 4. I mean, the whole field is capable of running 2 minutes or faster. I think we get 4 or more. Before we wrap up, a shout out to our winners from last week in our Bermuda Grand Prix Pick'em Pool, Adam Short and Mike Laninga. Congrats and have fun with your share of $1,000. That's it for this week's episode of the USATF Fantasy Show. Make sure to visit usatf.org/pick'em and get your picks in by Saturday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern for your chance to win your share of $2,500. Also, make sure to tune in to the meet live on NBC from 3 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And for Dr. Robert Chapman and Jordan Testerman, my name's James Hill. We will see you next week as we prepare for the Nike Prefontaine Classic.